Hello, this is Elvis Walters, and today we'll be working on deconstructing prompts. So, with the first slide, we're looking at reflective thinking here in all of these prompts. So, the main thing that you have to do is to clearly state your opinion. What do you think based on this question? And we'll look at a few examples in a minute here. Then you need to justify your opinion, basically stating how it supports your opinion. And you have to use some type of evidence or theory, and then finally you're going to apply it to your future teaching. The big idea is, how do we do all of these steps in an essay, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So for this prompt example, identify and observe a student in your practicum classroom who struggles. What does the classroom teacher do to support that student? What additional kind of support would you like to see? How does the student's IEP support his or her learning goals? So we're going to break it down into 4 parts. Number 1, identify and observe a student in your practicum classroom who struggles. Number 2, what does the classroom teacher do to support that student? 3, what additional kind of support would you like to see? And 4, how does the student's IEP support his or her learning goals? So we're going to look at all of those 4 parts separately and break it down, because they're all 4 different things that we have to answer in this question. So for part 1, we need some background for the entire prompt, because we have to be able to do research in order to answer all of the problems, all of the questions, I should say, excuse me. First of all, what I like to do is take detailed notes. How? We're going to use a graphic organizer. It might work for you, it might not. You can look at it and you can try to see if that works for you. And we have to make sure that we see all of the research in our prompt. So for example, we have to look at number 4, how does the student's IEP support his or her learning goals? Well, we have to select a student or a teacher that has a student with an IEP. And good notes are very, very important in any good reflective piece of writing. So let's look at this graphic organizer to get some help with the first part here. They're all about identifying and observing a student who struggles and the classroom teacher relationship with that student. Right, part 1 already, you're observing, so that's number 1. Number 2, now you're trying to say, now you're really starting to answer the question, what does the classroom teacher do to support that? So if you're having trouble taking just plain notes, which is something that I like to do, you can try just using a graphic organizer with questions or headings at the top like this one, and you can fill it in with any questions that are in the prompt. So for example, I just took these straight from the prompt. How does the student respond? So when the teacher is dealing with the student with an IEP, how does that student respond? How does the student act? So when the teacher is not talking to them, like, what are they actually doing? What is the student like in class? What are their behaviors? Look at the 5 senses, or use your 5 senses. Mostly seeing, but like, what do they do? What does the student do? What is the teacher-student relationship? And what is the student like with his peers? Those are 2 very different things. They're all about, we're talking about this. And then finally, to answer number 4, what is the student's IEP and learning goals? You've probably been able to student. So let's do some more background. What does the classroom teacher do to support that student? So now you've got enough information. So you're going to look back on your notes, your graphic organizer, and start typing out your notes into sentences. They don't have to flow just yet, but make sure you write actual complete sentences, because you don't want to have to go back and do all this work, because you've already done your bullet point notes. So for example, if your bullet point was, teacher repeats things multiple times to the student before he responds, you could write, one of the ways that the classroom teacher supports the student is by repeating things multiple times. Biggest goal here, make sure it relates back to the prompt, and remember, this is not your opinion, just facts. So you're just observing and writing down what you've seen. Next, you want to continue writing down the facts and then organize them. So your intro, you're going to start with your facts, your observations, any background details the reader would want to know. I always think about the 5 W's and the 1 H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who is the student and teacher? What are they doing? What is their relationship? When is this? You can even say the date, what time, what morning, afternoon, where, like 7th, 6th grade, 1st, 2nd, wherever. Why is a little bit trickier. It gets into a little bit of analysis. We can get to that later. And then how, like how are they acting? And so, for example, here's mine. My CT, Miss Ogie, has 4 stations in her classroom: Achieve, Word Work, Reading World, and Independent Work. The student I observed is named Dante. So I just wanted to set it all out, try to build the scene. You can even talk about what the classroom looks like, that sort of thing. And then we're going to go into part 3, which is actually stating your opinion. So after you've gotten all those facts laid out in your intro, you might even have 2 paragraphs of facts if you've got a lot. Remember, we need all that to support your opinion. What additional kind of support would you like to see? So based on all your background details, based on what you've learned in class, this class, your methods classes, Ed 100, all of those Ed classes, what do you think? Now you can put it in your own opinion. What would you do if you were in that situation? If you were the teacher, based on all of what you've seen, what would you do? Now you have to justify your opinion. You have what you would do, but you have to state why you would do it. For example, if the student needs extra support in reading, and you think the teacher should read aloud to him, what research or background knowledge supports that opinion? Have you seen that work with other students? Did it work for you? Have you done any research or heard about that practice in other classes? Maybe it's something that you actually saw in your CT's class that might have worked, but she didn't do it enough. Or you think it would work because you've read it in a book. Could be Chapuis, Marzano, any book that you've seen. Or it could just be something that you did in your schooling and it really helped you when you were struggling, or it helped one of your peers. Then you're going to go back to your graphic organizer, look at how the student's IEP actually supported their learning goals. So it's kind of 2 parts here. You have to learn the IEP and then learn the learning goals. And you're going to connect the 2. How does the IEP actually support those goals? What I like to do is write them both out, almost like a summary, and then connect them. And remember, this is not your opinion because you're using your research to try to answer this question. Essentially, your conclusion should be about 4 or 5 sentences. You're going to, 1, summarize your main points. 2, what did you learn? What was your main takeaway from doing this assignment and collecting your data? 3, summarize any connections you made that will help you as a teacher. Again, applying it to your future practice. And 4, just like your major takeaway, your final sentence to wrap it all up. It can be something cheesy or something just, kind of cool. Here's a second example. This is a little bit different. It only really has 2 or 3 parts. Which of the Kagan structures have you observed in your classroom? Provide a brief description. Part 2, which of the Kagan structures do you believe would be a good fit for you in your practice, in your grade level / content area? And how would you arrange your classroom to accommodate student learning using this Kagan structure? So what I would do again is research and observe. You can make a graphic organizer if you want, putting the questions at the top, or you can just take regular bullet notes. Take note of the things that you've seen in your practicum. Look at the Kagan cards you've been given and how do they apply to your practicum. You can list some of them, how they are being used, and why the teacher is actually using them. And you can come up with some examples. Again, this is just facts. Remember, your facts are in this first part, and then you're going to bullet point them, arrange them into sentences, and then eventually help them flow. Then, after that, you're going to write your opinion. What do you think would actually be a good fit? Based on what you have seen, you're going to write down your opinion. Then, based on what you have seen, again, say what you think would be a good fit in your practice. And, of course, why? Why do you think that would be a good fit? Here, but you always want to say, why is that a good fit for your class? You need to justify that opinion with detailed facts based on what you've seen in your classroom, read in books, theories, anything like that. It's not exactly stated. And finally, how would you arrange your classroom? So look at your CT's class organization. How is it structured? How does this help or hurt his or her use of Kagan structures? And then apply this to your teaching practice. What would you do or not do, and why? And finally, make sure your writing is professional, APA format, and uses correct grammar. These are some links that you can click on. We'll have this PowerPoint available to you. And there's a sample APA 7 paper, which is the new APA. So if you've done any APA in the past, it has changed. Smart Thinking is a great resource it's a professional tutor. It takes about 24 to 48 hours to come back. You have obviously in-person tutoring for Maryville. If you've never been, it's in the back of the library, or you can make Zoom appointments as long as we're not on campus. And then you've got your online submission form that you can actually directly submit things to the writing studio, and we'll get back to you in about 48 to 72 hours. So, that is all I've got. Have a great day.